Assalamu alaikum. Today I am delivering my lecture related to control and prevention strategies for cardiovascular diseases. So, as the title depicts, this lecture, the scope will be mainly related to the discussion of the various interventions which can be done at different levels for the control of cardiovascular diseases. Learning objectives of this lecture include to discuss various interventions for control and prevention of CVDs, to discuss and differentiate high risk and population measures for prevention of CVDs, and to discuss role of primordial prevention in context of CVDs. It is crucial to understand the known risk factors for cardiovascular diseases before you can plan any prevention or control strategy. So, the cardiovascular disease risk factors are divided mainly into modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors. The non-modifiable risk factors include age, gender, family history, race, type of personality. What we actually mean by non-modifiable factors? Actually, the non-modifiable risk factors are those which cannot be altered or cannot be improved on, or we just cannot change them. Just like if you have a family history of cardiovascular disease, so nobody in this world can change your family history. Likewise, if gender, like male gender, is related to the early onset of hypertension and cardiovascular diseases, including myocardial infarction and angina. So, if some person is a male person, okay, so versus the female, male has a higher risk. So, nobody can change that risk related to the gender or sex. Likewise, the race, ethnicity, like Asians at more at risk of various kind of diseases, including cardiovascular disease and diabetes, as compared to the Caucasians and Americans and Europeans. So this also includes then the type of personality. There are mainly two types of personality, type A and type B. Type A personality people are the people who are actually more anxious and who just get more nervous and more stressed on, routine things as compared to the persons who are type B. So if somebody is type A personality type, which is the natural tendency or the natural behavior towards the life, so we cannot just alter that risk easily. So these are the non-modifiable risk factors which just cannot be changed. However, the modifiable risk factors include the factors which can be changed with some effort, like the obesity. So a person can reduce the weight with some effort. Tobacco use, we can always quit the tobacco. And then excessive use of alcohol can also be controlled. Likewise, hyperlipidemia, that is the increased blood lipids and cholesterol, can be improved with the help of diet control and medications. Increased salt intake can be controlled. Hypertension can be treated and can be controlled with the help of medicine. Stress के लिए भी दवाई ली जा सकती है, medications for depression, anxiety. Then sedentary lifestyle can be changed by increased physical activity, and we can always control the diabetes mellitus with the help of oral medications as well as insulin. Then there comes modern modifiable risk factors, which include the risk factors which are actually still under research but already have proven as related to the increased risk of cardiovascular disease. One of them is the homocysteine levels. Increased levels of homocysteine level predicts the high risk of myocardial infarction and stroke in future. Likewise, increased fibrogen, decreased copper, use of OCPs and reduced estrogen, like reduced estrogen in old age and after menopause in women, increases the risk of cardiac disease. Then increased levels of calcium also increase with the risk of hypertension. So still the mechanism of action of some of these modern factors is not known and is under research, like homocysteine level and others, but still they are considered the new emerging risk factors, and you should know the name of these. As we already know, cardiovascular disease is a major cause of disability and premature death or mortality throughout the world. And it is a substantial, factor contributing to the cost of increased burden to the healthcare services worldwide. And the underlying pathology, as you know, is atherosclerosis, which is the narrowing and thickening of the blood vessels. And the development of this atherosclerosis, you can say the cardiovascular diseases ultimately may take years. And if just somebody starts smoking, it doesn't mean that he or she will develop the hypertension in next 3-4 days, but it may take 10 to 15 years. So you have enough time to alter the lifestyle and control the risk factor to prevent the happening of the disease. Modification of risk factors have shown more decrease in mortality and morbidity related to cardiovascular diseases with the people diagnosed and undiagnosed with such problems. There are basically two major prevention approaches for any kind of non-communicable diseases. Non-communicable diseases means the diseases which cannot be transmitted by organisms like virus, bacteria, but the lifestyle and environmental factors like diabetes, like arthritis, like cardiovascular diseases, like depression. So this is very important to understand that what those two approaches are. The two approaches include the population-based approach and the high-risk approach. The population-based approach, as the name reflects, is basically the approach to disease prevention, which aims to address the social and structural factors causing the disease at the mass level or at the population level. So instead of concentrating on one person or individual, the responsibility behavior population-based approaches focus on communities, the whole population or the whole nation, you can say. While the high-risk approach conversely proposes to intervene for prevention upon those with the strongest likelihood or risk of developing the disease. So the people who are at risk and comes to in your clinic and in your contact, and you see the risk factors and offer them help. This approach basically identifies high-risk individuals based on their known risk factors and intervene to reduce those exposures, such as a person having obesity, a person having family history, a person having high cholesterol levels. While the population approaches include everyone, those who are at risk or not at risk, because the target is the whole population, not only the individuals who are showing the risk factors. However, the literature supports that a good combination of both approaches is really effective in improving the overall status of community regarding the burden of cardiovascular diseases and related morbidity and mortality. So this chart is showing actually the high risk strategy and population strategy. If you look at the chart on the vertical axis, there is percentage of population, and the x-axis there is 10-year cardiovascular disease risk. If you look at the red graph, it shows a high proportion of population is having the risk factors for cardiovascular disease, and their risk of 10-year cardiovascular disease is just reaching at 25. So 5 to 25 years are required to develop the disease for most of the population. If you see, the percentage of population at risk is very high. So if you apply the population as well as high risk strategy with a combination, so what will happen, if you see the dotted line, it shows you the 5 years risk increases to from 25 to 40 years. That's meaning a better quality of life. And the proportion of population has decreased substantially. So this will be the percentage who will be still at risk, but the disease will develop in next 40 years instead of next 25 years. So this is the effectiveness of using the combination of both strategies. So the control and prevention of cardiovascular disease at individual level can be achieved by targeting high-risk persons. So following strategies can help, just like health education, providing like awareness regarding risk factors and their methods for prevention, and counseling for reducing their risk and its importance for health. Then the behavior change interventions are required to change the behavior of an individual person towards his life and the CVD related risk factors. which mainly include lifestyle modification, just as decreased salt intake in diet, use of low-fat diets or high-fiber diets, cessation of smoking if somebody is a smoker, avoiding excessive use of alcohol if alcohol is already in use, increase in physical activity, avoidance of secondhand smoke. Like secondhand smoke is the exposure to tobacco smoke. If somebody else is smoking, like sitting next to a person or sitting in the same room where somebody is smoking. Then improve self-care. Self-care includes the concept of just taking your health more seriously by following all your medications, improving lifestyle, and just regularly following what you need to, like checking blood pressure, doing exercise, taking medicines regularly, if any. So then regular screening for CVD and other NCDs and weight reduction. Other NCDs will include diabetes mellitus particularly and hyperlipidemia conditions. So weight reduction is also of crucial importance. To taking your fitness more seriously can help a lot. Then clinical interventions may include treatment of hypertension or other CVDs. Then medical rehabilitation, which also includes vocational training, because if a person already have developed the heart disease, they may not be able to doing the same job they used to do due to their heart condition. So then the vocational training help them in finding a better job or the better occupational strategy to continue their work. So the public-based approach-related interventions include health education, awareness through mass media sources like TV, radio, newspaper, or social media. Then the structural behavior change interventions, which includes basically the policy or legislative interventions, include ban on sale of tobacco to minor, public policies related to mandatory workplace exercise programs, ban on smoking at public places, and legislation maintaining specific food standards for school canteen or meals. So the provision of supportive environmental interventions include workplace exercise programs, increasing taxes on sugar-sweetened beverages, food labeling for ingredients including salt and fat content, establishing smoking cessation clinics, establishing smoking zones at rooms and public places, provision of screening services for cardiovascular diseases, school health services with growth monitoring for obesity and obesity clinics, universal access to health care for treatment of hypertension and cardiovascular diseases. Potential interventions for CVDs include risk evaluation of an individual by looking at a gender, lipid profile, family history, BMI, waist to hip ratio, body shape, sedentary lifestyle. Then providing health education, offering weight reductions, smoking cessation if required, and dietary counseling regarding low fat and high fiber diet. Example of secondary prevention include screening for hypertension by checking blood pressure or exercise tolerance test for the heart to just rule out the angina or the developing MI. Then the pharmacotherapy and treatment can be offered for the existing cardiovascular conditions or problems, and then the referral services for advanced cardiac care if somebody requires CABG or pacemaker installation, or somebody have advanced cardiomyopathy, so they can get the required care in a specialized center. Tertiary prevention of cardiovascular diseases, of course, is as we know, tertiary prevention focuses the regain of lost function, so it requires medical rehabilitation services to improve the strength of cardiac muscle by doing various aerobic and non-aerobic exercises. Then the vocational training, just to adjust the person with according to his the cardiac condition or the overall health situation in the current job, or just offering and helping them identifying and offering the possible options for to continue any occupation as a source of earning.